Welcome back to the show. We're talking about Saudi Arabia and the more assertive role it's taking in the Middle East. Joining me now here in our Washington studio is Abdulateef Al-Mulhim. He is a daily columnist for the Saudi newspaper Al-Yawm, and joining us from London is Catherine Shakdam. She is a political analyst and commentator on Middle East issues. Her work has appeared in major publications. Also with us, Adnan Tabatabai. He is a political analyst on Iranian affairs and joins us from Dusseldorf in Germany. Welcome to all of you to the show. Adnan, let me start with you. As we heard from our previous guest, there is a great deal of suspicion over Iranian intentions in the Middle East. There's a great deal of suspicion over the nuclear deal that Iran has signed with world powers. What do you make of these beliefs that Iran is seeking regional domination?
I think there is no doubt that Iran has always been perceiving itself as a regional power, has also been perceived by others as a regional power. After the revolution of '79, Iran has been more and more trying to be, or let's say others try to isolate Iran, not let Iran be in that role as a regional power, and therefore some of its regional policies may have been appearing hostile to others, since Iran wanted to maintain its position in the region. And I think this agreement has changed a bit the context in that regard, that Iran is more and more viewed as a regional power, and therefore I believe Iran's actions in the region will also shift towards more constructive policies, more of a conciliatory approach.
Catherine, we know that Saudi Arabia is taking on Houthi rebels in Yemen, neighboring Yemen. What is your assessment of Saudi Arabia's role in Yemen? Is it a good thing or a bad thing for the region?
I think it's a very bad thing for the region, and only because they're promoting instability and they're enabling radical groups such as Al-Qaeda and ISIS to actually take hold onto the country, which we know is already a failed state, on the brink of a humanitarian catastrophe and economically broken. And to top it all, Saudi Arabia has made sure that all the military apparatus of Yemen has been laid to waste, and therefore, the military will be incapable and unable to combat Al-Qaeda or ISIS, for that matter, should the group decide to take actions against the people, which they already are.
Abdulateef, a former advisor to the Saudi royal court, Nawaf Obaid, he recently was quoted as saying that this is a Saudi moment for the region. Do you agree? Is Saudi Arabia becoming more assertive in the Middle East?
Well, first of all, Saudi Arabia did possess a very, very strategic top position in the Middle East for a long time. People are relating to Yemen as an intervention, but we never wanted this intervention. But the situation in Yemen is becoming so chaotic that we had no chance to but to interfere. So if people want to look at Saudi Arabia from this perspective as a dominating power or something, these are our personal opinions. We have seen Western countries like the United States or the United Kingdom interfering in countries that are thousands of miles away because they are a threat. So in Saudi Arabia, it's more of that. Yemen is a bordering country to Saudi Arabia, and it has been very, very unstable for a long time, and they just they're
real quick.
Well, the chaotic thing in Yemen is a big threat to Saudi Arabia. We have to be very frank.
Catherine, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that even though I can appreciate that some people understand Saudi Arabia's intervention in Yemen is legitimate, I would argue, however, from an international law point of view, it is not only illegitimate, it's immoral and illegal. So I don't see how anyone could justify attacking a foreign country when that country didn't do anything to attack the attacking country in the first place. This is not, this is not a case of self-defense. This is an invasion, and this is actually, a form of colonialism. You have one superpower trying to, pounding at the poorest nation in the peninsula, and they're causing, the death of hundreds and thousands of civilians. And we know now from Human Rights Watch and countless other rights organizations that they are systematically targeting civilian population. And I would actually argue that, some sectarian profiling goes into it.
No, I disagree. First of all, Saudi Arabia have done tremendous job before the current escalation of the conflict. We tried to do it peacefully with the other Gulf states, but we found no other solution but to to use this kind of force. Because it happened before, like a couple of years ago, when the Houthis attacked the southern borders of Saudi Arabia, and we had no chance but to re-attack. Saudi Arabia share hundreds of miles of borders with Yemen. Yemen has a population of 30 million people, and the infrastructure in Yemen is one of the worst in the whole world. So this recent clash between Saudi Arabia and Yemen happened only after it was found that Yemen is becoming a threat after the Houthis overtook Yemen, and they are becoming a threat to the southern border.
Okay, let me bring in Adnan here. Adnan, the conventional narrative that we hear is that these are two regional powers fighting for domination in the Middle East, and what we are seeing is basically a proxy war between these two forces. Is that the case?
Well, I think it's a bit difficult to put it this way, because obviously, as our colleague in your studio is saying, Yemen is a bordering country, 1,700 kilometers to Saudi Arabia. So for Saudi Arabia, there's much more at stake in Yemen than is for Iran. Therefore, there is much more to gain and to win and to control for Saudi Arabia than has ever been for Iran. Therefore, the stakes for Saudi Arabia in Yemen are much, much higher, and it would be exaggerated to believe that Iran has so much interest in Yemen that it is accepting to get involved in a conflict which is far away, while being struggling with threats to its security, to Iran's security in neighboring countries, Iraq and Afghanistan, and also to its interests in Syria. Therefore, I think this narrative that you are referring to was pushed through by not only the Saudi kingdom, but also other countries in the Gulf who kept this, who wanted to push this narrative into the media to say this is a battle between Iran and Saudi Arabia, while it is actually a battle in which Saudi Arabia is trying to keep or to thwart a security threat from coming in from Yemen. And I would tend to agree to our colleague in London who says that how much of a threat is that really to Saudi Arabia? But then again, I would say let's appreciate and let the Saudis themselves say what is a threat to them and what is not. But keep things on your own personal country focus, and do not bring external actors as excuses for some of the actions that are adopted in Yemen.
Well, there are many proofs that Iran was involved in Yemen. But put it this way, why would Saudi Arabia want to destroy Yemen? We don't. As a matter of fact, believe it or not, every single Saudi...
You do?
Well, every single Saudi in Saudi Arabia, either official or regular citizen, do sympathize with Yemen, and we want a very, very stable Yemen. Why should Saudi Arabia? I mean, we spent billions of dollars to help Yemen get up on its feet for the past many decades. We built schools, we built infrastructure. There are, even during the war in Saudi Arabia, we had corrected the status of hundreds of thousands of Yemenis. We didn't kick them out of the kingdom. We actually corrected their status, and they're working in Saudi Arabia alongside the Saudis. Every Saudi citizen is dealing with Yemenis on a daily basis.
Okay, so let me ask Catherine to respond to that. Why would the Saudis, so I'll come to you in a moment, Adnan. Catherine, why would the Saudis want to destroy Yemen?
Well, one of the main immediate threats that Yemen posed to Saudi Arabia was that Yemen was on the verge of becoming a real democratic state. And of course, for the theocracy, which is Saudi Arabia, this is not something they're willing to tolerate. Yemen would be the only country in the peninsula surrounded by other kingdoms, which kingdoms are actually satellites of Saudi Arabia, to exist next to the most violent theocracy of the world. And of course, that doesn't sit very well with Riyadh. And the second thing that you need to understand as well is not just to look at Yemen, but look at the region. And systematically, either America or the Saudi have gone after military superpower in the region. You had first Iraq, and then Syria, and then now Yemen. And if Yemen doesn't pose a threat militarily to Saudi Arabia, that it will be very easy to buy its politician, which they have done for decades, by the way, and to make sure that access to all resources are guaranteed by Riyadh and secured by Riyadh. As far as the Saudi borders goes with Yemen, I'd like to say that 3 of the southern provinces of Saudi Arabia are actually Yemeni land, which were stolen, back in 2000. They are actually sold to the former president of Yemen. So I think that a lot of people there would argue that it's still Yemeni land.
Okay, I'll come to you in a moment, Abdulateef. Let's go to Adnan. Adnan, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I would actually tend to believe that there is no interest for Saudi Arabia to destroy Yemen or to kill Yemenis. But as a matter of fact, the actions at the moment are leading to the worsening of a situation of a country which was already a failed state. And throughout the past years and maybe even decades, Saudi Arabia has constantly been weakening the central government of Yemen, supporting tribes whom they thought are loyal to them, and never ever strengthening a proper central government. And I think the most destabilizing thing in the Middle East and in the Gulf area is the collapse of central governments and non-state actors and militias becoming stronger and stronger. Saudi Arabia is not the only country, obviously, who is supporting non-state actors in the region, but it is a country whom we tend to not speak that much about when it comes to asking ourselves why are groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS so strong, because there has been a lot of support from the Saudi kingdom for some non-state actors, and by this short-term thinking, of course there is the danger of destroying a country like Yemen, while at the same time I believe no, it is not in the interest of Saudi Arabia to destabilize the region or to destroy Yemen. But right now the current policies seem to be very, very destructive for the region, and therefore one can ask, is that the goal? Which I, however, still think is not the goal, which makes you wonder why this war.
Abdulateef, what do you make of that? I mean, is it in the interest of Saudi Arabia to destabilize Yemen?
I have to make 2 points.
Right.
First of all, to Adnan, we tried to help the central government in Yemen. Again, not today, but for decades. And but the problem with Yemen is totally divided by tribal. As far as Catherine's comment about the three provinces belonging to Yemen, we stole them. This is a comment that I wouldn't even comment on. I mean, I wouldn't even discuss it. It's absurd, to be very, very frank. And what Saudi Arabia had done for Yemen is something that had never been done for any other country from our side. Apparently, Yemen is a very, very fractured country. And each region of Yemen is not knowing what the other region is doing. So we tried our best to avoid this war. We tried our best to avoid civilian casualties. But the problem in Yemen can only be solved by the Yemenis. But as far as Catherine's talk about Yemen is a threat to us because it was supposed to be becoming a democratic country. I mean, let's be frank. Yemen is ruled by tribal system. And the threat to Yemen that Saudi Arabia really tried to take out, they have big threat from lack of water.
Right.
Yemen doesn't have any kind of water. And just the infrastructure is totally destroyed. It's only the Yemenis who can do it.
Okay.
No other country outside.
Catherine, are we going to see lots more conflict and instability in the region? I mean, what is it going to take to reach some kind of long-term stability there?
I think that the main thing would be for foreign powers to actually back off a little bit and let nation really assist nation rather than tell them what to do, and have people to decide for themselves. I think that political self-determination is absolutely key, and we need to assist country and again not try to impose foreign policies onto them because it is more it suits certain capitals agenda. That is the main thing. And the second thing is we need to stop using binary narrative and trying to divide people along sectarian line or regional line or tribal line, and try to really build nationalism and have people have a sense of identity. Because when people understand that they share a common history and common tradition, they are more likely to work together towards the same goal. Because at the end of the day, everyone wants the same thing, which is have a life of dignity and be able to raise the children in peace without the fear of war. Those are universal values, and until the international community comes together and really honor international law and decide to act upon it, things will get better. And if not, things will continue to descend into madness, and Syria and Iraq and Yemen will be repeated all over.